Hey everybody, Mike Nash from Nash Family Bacon here. Just wanted to share with you a quick little recipe on how I like to use some leftover white rice to do some fried rice with my bacon as a starter, particularly our sauce bacon from Nash Family Bacon. Let me show you what we use. Alright, here's some of the ingredients that we use for our fried rice, minus the sauces. I'll show you that in a little bit. Starting with the star of the show, our Nash Family Bacon sauce bacon cut, where it is nice and large pieces ready to be used. We've also got our leftover white rice, and I do emphasize you want to use leftover white rice, like day old kind of thing that's been sitting in the fridge, and I'll show you why in a little bit. We've also got our diced onions as well as chopped up garlic, and we have our frozen vegetables. You can usually pick up the frozen vegetables at any grocery store. Everybody should be pretty familiar with it. Yeah, those are our ingredients, so let's get started. Alright, so before I show you how we start, I just want to let you know that I've already got a hot pan. I cooked up a bunch of sauce bacon as a snack for the family over the weekend. But this is already hot, a little bit of flan on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and add our sauce bacon to it. We're going to get that all cooked up. Now you might be asking yourself, what's the difference between the hot pan and the cold pan whenever you're starting with bacon? Well, the real difference is that if you start with a cold pan, you put the bacon in there and you turn on the burner or you turn on the electric stove, you are able to render out more fat as the pan slowly heats up. As where if you use a hot pan, you don't render out as much fat. But it's kind of up to you whether you like to do it or not. To be honest, I'm kind of indifferent towards it. I love the bacon either way, so that's that tip. So now you've got your pieces in here. Just kind of stir them up. Make sure you try to brown all the sides. Because these are bigger chopped pieces, they're not going to be able to just sit in the oil or the bacon fat and fry up. So make sure you just kind of mix it around, try to brown all the edges properly. Alright, so now what I've got here is I've got the leftover rice. What you're going to want to do is you'll see it's kind of cold and crumbly. You want to dump that into a nice big bowl, and I recommend using a pair of gloves because what you're going to be doing is breaking up the rice. Now you want leftover rice because it'll absorb all the sauces better versus a freshly cooked rice. It's still kind of soft and doesn't do very well when tossed in a frying pan filled with sauces and oil and whatnot. So when you're doing fried rice, it's always great to use leftover day-old white rice. And what you're going to do is when you're breaking it up, you're going to see these little pieces. Just try to reach in there and make sure you kind of break it all up into the individual rice grains. Just like that. Just kind of grab it between your hands. And you can do this barehanded, that's fine. You're just, you're going to wash your hands pretty good afterwards. Before and after, practice food safety. But me personally, I just like to put on a pair of gloves and get in there. Not really have to deal with it. Yep, so also, and what I like to do is, this has been in the fridge for a couple of days, so it's not too bad, but do a big old thing of white rice for the family. We do like orange chicken and steamed broccoli and a couple other things and even some gyoza. And then, I'll put aside the leftover white rice just for a easy fried rice meal. And so as you can see, you get in there, you get most of all that broken up. You try to find some of the bigger clumps and just kind of unclump it. So now the rice is ready while our bacon is getting cooked. Now we're going to have a little more footage of the star of the show, of our sauce bacon. You can hear all that delicious sizzling, the flan building up on the bottom. And basically we're just kind of moving the bacon around, trying to flip some of the, more uncooked pieces, make sure everything gets cooked properly. Crisp it up. The beautiful thing about bacon is it makes its own fat and oil that it can cook itself in, and it's a delicious sound too. It sounds like small applause coming out of the pan as the bacon cooks. And we're going to be sauteing our vegetables in that after this, so see you quick. Our bacon is almost done here. One note I do want to add to it too is that you can use more or less bacon, whichever you prefer. But if you're having another protein, so for example, if I have like leftover chicken, I'll typically chop that up and put it in there too, or something else. Or if you're doing your own little side of orange chicken that you're making and you want fried rice to be on the side, maybe a little less of the bacon so it doesn't take the entire show, that is definitely something I would do as well. So, bacon's about to come off, and we're going to saute the veggies. One thing to note, this bacon does render quite a bit of fat. So if there's too much fat in the pan, go ahead and remove it, put it in a little bacon fat jar, and save that for another recipe. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we've pulled the bacon out. We've got a little bit of the bacon fat still left in there. We're going to toss our onions in next to let those saute and brown up and maybe get a little translucent. Now, I do have chopped garlic, but when you're cooking with chopped garlic, you kind of want that to be the last thing that you saute, just because you don't want to burn it. So just getting in there, breaking it up a little bit. Now at this point you could also salt the onions if you want, but because the bacon already has a good amount of salt to it, I don't typically add extra salt to my vegetables. Plus the teriyaki sauce that I use to help brown the rice up a little bit has a little bit of that soy sauce already, which is a little salty. So I think this is perfectly fine. And yeah. That'll be our onions. We'll get our garlic going in as soon as these saute. Alright, so our onions have sauteed. I'm going to take some of that garlic now. I put a little opening in the center there, push the onions to the side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the garlic on there. And you can add a little extra butter or some kind of oil to help with this, but I think there's enough fat in there already. So what you want to do is just get the garlic in there and let it saute. You're basically trying to get it to cook so that way you kind of get some of that fragrance. And when you do this, you'll know the smell that I'm talking about. So just kind of let it sit for a little bit, move it around, let it get exposed to the heat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and mix in with the garlic now. Just kind of move that oil around. Alright, so we've got the garlic and onion sauteing. I also forgot one of the other main ingredients is going to be some eggs. You're going to scramble them up. So once I'm done sauteing the veggies, I'm going to pull it out and we're going to add a little more oil to the pan and we're going to get those eggs all nice and fluffed up. Alright, so while the oil is reheating back into the pan, want to make sure you mix up those eggs, get them nice and homogeneous, which is all like one color. Try and get all those egg whites mixed in with the egg yolk. I like to season a little bit, put a little bit of milk in there too, that kind of helps. But with the oil, or the bacon fat or grease that's already in the pan, with a little bit of milk and the eggs, these should hopefully fluff up pretty nice. So, we're going to add those in there. Alright, so the eggs have been sitting in there for a second. Because it's a hot pan, the eggs should, once you kind of mix them up a little bit, should cook up pretty well. Don't worry about some of the stuff that gets on the sides or even in the center of the pan there, because we're going to deglaze in a little bit and that'll all come up and get right back into the fried rice, so no problems with that. So you see the eggs are kind of coming together. And you're seeing some of the flan come off in the eggs. Again, don't worry about that. Flan is just flavor. As long as you don't burn the pan too badly. And, well, let's be honest, I don't make all of my dishes perfectly. So, again, disclaimer, not a professional chef by any standard, but just a Midwest dad who loves to cook with bacon. So, you see some of the eggs are coming together. Alright, we're going to get ready to pull these off, and then we're going to get the frozen vegetables in here, and we'll deglaze a little bit. Alright, so now we've got our frozen veggies. We pulled the eggs out. We're going to just kind of toss those directly onto the heat there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deglaze the pan with just a little bit of water to help kind of pull up that flan and get some eggs off the side. And you can use chicken broth. You could probably even deglaze with something other, some other kind of sauce. I've seen people also use soy sauce to help deglaze just because of how wet it is. And really what you're doing is you want to use a nice rough spatula. You can see all that flan coming off the bottom. That flan is going to help flavor the vegetables. And you might be asking yourself, okay, but that's a lot of water that's going to be left over. Do you want me to simmer it out? Are we trying to cook the veggies? And no, not really. We're going to kind of bring it to temp a little bit, help it, get to maybe a little bit of a simmering state. And then we're going to toss our rice into there, which is also going to kind of absorb all that delicious flan flavor. So, again, maybe not the prettiest sight for fried rice, but don't worry, it's all going to come together. So, stick around. Alright, so as you can see, we've got the water inside the pan simmering. We've also got our veggies, which are pretty well rehydrated thanks to the steam, and they're nice and warmed up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the white rice directly to it. So you take it, dump it right on in there, make sure it gets, you'll see some of that probably gets stuck up in there, but just go ahead and dump that right on in. I always end up saving too much white rice, and I just make a ton of this stuff. So, you know, just you only need a decent amount because the volume of the dish will also be made up with the vegetables, the eggs, the onions, all that fun stuff, and of course, our delicious bacon. So, now as you can see, the rice is, you just kind of move it around, help it cook. It's going to rehydrate in with the water and the steam, and because it is already cooked rice, it just needs a little bit of heat, and it doesn't really need so much as a bunch of water. So just keep the pan nice and hot and keep moving the rice around, and yeah, just keep an eye on the rice. Alright, so we've let it sit on here for a couple of minutes. You'll see that with a hot pan, especially one that's not non-stick, it'll, well, the rice will start kind of sticking in here in a bit to the bottom. So, now we've got this, we're going to add in our eggs and onions and bacon and garlic, all the delicious stuff. We're just going to go put that back in there. Okay. There we are. And we just continue to mix a little bit. As you can see, there's a lot of bacon in there, and I love it that way. For those who are a little more traditional with their fried rice, you'll typically use barbecue. That's like Chinese barbecue pork, or I think it's called char siu. If I obliterated the pronunciation of that, my apologies. But yeah, you substitute a little bit of bacon in this instead, and it gives a little bit of a different texture, but it helps saute up everything. And I don't really have to add much salt to it thanks to the bacon. And then I've got here some of my own homemade teriyaki sauce, and I'll just kind of add it directly in. Helps kind of brown up the rice a little bit. Plus it gives it that sweet flavor of teriyaki sauce that I've come to love. So, and by the way, if you guys do want to know my recipe for teriyaki sauce, please feel free to leave a comment in the video below, and maybe I'll try and get that out to you. But otherwise, it looks like our fried rice is almost done here. So yeah, that about covers the fried rice. Let me know what you think. Alright, so that wraps up our video for our fried rice made with a little bit of bacon. Again, not a professional chef, and not exactly a culinary expert when it comes down to Oriental cuisine, such as delicious fried rice. Just a Midwest dad who likes to cook for his family, adding a little bit of bacon. So, if you liked it, please feel free to give us a like and subscribe to our channel, and keep an eye out for future videos. I will be coming out with a video I'm really looking forward to, which is how to cook bacon in all the different ways you can. So I'll come out with some of the main ways that I know how to cook bacon, and I look forward to seeing what everybody else says how they like to cook it. So thanks for watching. Again, like, subscribe. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your day.